All right, so let's talk USC. Man, USC. There was a guy that was commenting on this chat. I'm gonna have to say he's right. The more I've dove into USC, the more I've really continued to garner more respect for Lincoln Riley. They know what they're doing as far as talent evaluation. They're bringing in transfers who have some high-end traits. And there's a few guys I want to touch on, but Bear Alexander, too, if you remember. Big-time recruit, went to Georgia. This is a guy who has a lot of good abilities, a very good athlete for a guy that's that big, moves exceptionally well, has some power, especially in the hands and the upper body, explosive when he at the point of attack, as far as when he engages offensive linemen. So Bear Alexander, a guy I really like. Christian Roland Wallace, another guy, transfer from Arizona. Boy, they have really done a good job of talk about stealing players from Arizona. Christian Roland Wallace, their corner. This is a guy who I don't understand how he was a 3-star coming out of high school. You see how, as much as some of the recruiting services are dead on, you see the guys like this, I think, are what are going to make a difference, or what could potentially make the rich get richer. Because this is a guy that you see, he's got all the traits and movement skills that there's no reason he should be a 3-star recruit. But all this guy's done is ball out in high school and then show a lot of ability at Arizona. I can't remember if he was a California native or not, but this is a guy that, it's bigger schools. I say bigger schools, Arizona, Power 5 school, but the point I'm trying to make is Alabama, Georgia, some of the other schools should have been knocking on this kid's door in high school. But this is a guy who, ball skills are there, big hitter, understands, burst, acceleration, knows how to take angles, a good tackler. So this is a guy I think this is a guy that could be a true difference maker for USC. Him, Bear Alexander, Anthony Lucas, a guy that started his career at Texas A&M, was a big-time recruit. He's got strong hands, can win with speed. USC not only they've done a tremendous job of getting guys on the defensive line, which that's what's key for USC. Can they improve the trenches? And I'm going to answer that question. Yes, I was immediately wrong. I've done more research now. And another guy, Michael Tarquin, too, at left tackle, projected to start at left tackle. This is another guy that is not, even though he's been at Florida for a while, just missed some games because of injury. But yeah, this is a guy who's an excellent left tackle. I think he's got an NFL skill set. So to me, Lincoln Riley in this recruiting staff, has done a really good job of evaluating talent, and they're on to something here for sure. They are bringing in guys. They are doing just what the doctor ordered. They're bringing in guys that are outstanding players in the trenches, and that's where USC is going to have to improve to win games down the road if they want to be a national title contender, not just a Pac-12 title contender. But yeah, USC is my pick to win the Pac-12. And another guy, so I'm watching Mason Cobb too at linebacker. Mason Cobb, this is a guy who, I have no idea why he's not getting more hype as one of the top linebackers that's eligible for next year's draft. It just goes to show that there's so many guys. This is kind of a side note here. There's so many guys like this time of year that, could move their way into one of the top guys for next year's draft that people aren't talking about. Mason Cobb certainly is an example of that. You watch his movement skills, another guy that, to me, mind-blowing why he wasn't a higher-ranked recruit. Movement skills, so good at reading quarterbacks and zone coverage. Reads plays and just takes angles with violence. Just can bring big hits. So excellent job of working through the mess and traffic. Side-to-side movement is excellent. So, yeah, Mason Cobb, this guy is going to be an absolute stud. And then they still have some depth, too. You still got a guy like Shane Lee. Shane Lee, guy that really has not really developed into the linebacker we thought. Former, big-time recruit coming out of high school, played at Alabama, but now you got some depth at linebacker and some high-end talent, so I absolutely love that move, getting Mason Cobb. Mason Cobb, this is a guy that really is exciting. Jamil Muhammad, too. Interesting story. Muhammad was a guy that at Georgia State started off as a quarterback. Was a big-time quarterback in high school, but kind of one of those guys that an athlete such a superior athlete. The quarterback wasn't his prime position, but they wanted him to put him at quarterback to have the ball in his hand. Goes to Georgia State as a 3-star recruit. Midway through the 2020 season, they move him to defense, and all he does is take off defensively. Couple seasons, 2021 and 2022 at Georgia State, 11 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. Shows a lot of ability as a rush linebacker. So yeah, I mean, with all that being said, USC is in a prime position. They have high-end difference makers on the trenches. Overall, at quarterback, Caleb Williams, and they have talent at receiver, NFL talent. Dorian Singer, too, another transfer they got. So with all that being said, I guess the one question mark a little bit at running back, and then still some questions in maybe the depth overall in the defensive backfield. But a guy like Kalen Bullock is a solid player. I think maybe he's a little bit overhyped, but he's a guy that's got some ability. So, yeah, USC strength, did exactly what they needed in the transfer portal. Not only did they get good players in the trenches, they got high-end difference makers, and then difference maker at linebacker, a guy that's a leader, experienced a lot of football, Mason Cobb. Talent at wide receiver. I think they do have enough depth at running back, even if there's not high-end talent there. And then a quarterback who's going to go likely number 1 in the draft. So with all that being said, USC is going to win the Pac-12 this year. Write it down. Lincoln Riley and their recruiting staff knows exactly what they're doing as far as bringing in high-end talent on this team. So USC will be the Pac-12 champions next year. Can't wait for when they play Washington, though. Washington's probably my second team now. I did have Washington to win it all or win the Pac-12 initially, but as I've kind of dove deep into USC's team and watched tape on guys that they land in the transfer portal and taken into mind some of the guys that they have and some of the guys that they already have, I think it's a perfect mix, and I think it's a perfect formula for them to win the Pac-12 this year and actually be a national title contender. I think USC, this is tough for me to say, but I think USC could be I think they are a national title contender. I think they still are. Even with all they've done, I think it's still going to be tough for them to compete with Georgia, even in LSU, Alabama, some of the SEC teams that are so superior in the trenches, but I think they certainly are going to have a shot to do so. But yeah, I absolutely love what USC's done. I cannot wait till they play Washington. I think that's going to be a super fun game. A lot of talent on the field, 2 NFL level quarterbacks, an elite edge rusher in Braylon Trice that Washington has, a guy that I think, in my opinion, could go top 10, maybe the top linebacker. That's the thing. Is Mason Cobb the best linebacker? I think Barrett Carter's up there from Clemson, but is Mason Cobb the best linebacker in college football as far as, at least for draft eligible players? I think he's a guy that I think it's going to be a lot like Christian Gonzalez last year for Oregon. Christian Gonzalez was a guy who played some good football at Colorado, but then finally got a chance to really shine at a team like Oregon. I think Mason Cobb, even though he's played so well for Oklahoma State, I think now when the lights are even brighter at USC, I think he's going to have a chance to really do some excellent things and have an outstanding year at linebacker for USC. And I think the flash plays, USC on TV more. If USC is really good like they should be, I think Mason Cobb is going to put himself in a position to be a high-end draft pick. And I think that it's kind of sad that as top-heavy as college football's been, that a guy has to go from Oklahoma State to USC or Colorado to Oregon. Colorado a little different now with Deion Sanders going to get more of the spotlight, but it's crazy that a guy has to make that jump to really get the spotlight. But yeah, it's interesting. USC has kind of done the opposite of Oregon. Oregon appears to be wanting to really turn around their roster via recruiting. USC, they've kind of almost had some, not necessarily misses, but Damani Jackson, Corey Foreman are examples of guys that, there's a lot of hype in high school, but you've kind of watched their tape. They may have been a little bit overrated. Now, they do have enough ability. Jackson and Foreman, some of those 5-star guys that USC has recruited, they do have enough ability to do some nice things and help contribute to this team. But I don't think they're not going to be as high-end level impact players as some of the guys they brought in the transfer portal. So, yeah, I could go on talking about USC all day. I absolutely love what they've done. They'll win the Pac-12 this year. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Brant Parcell Show. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.